the black sheep who became their shepherd of judgment. Life taught me early that sometimes the people you die for are the ones who hand you the shovel to dig your own grave. My family labeled me the black sheep, the mistake, the one who would never amount to anything. But they didn't know that black sheep survive wolves, because we learn to become one. This is the story of how I, Jordan Hale, went from being the outcast to the silent architect of my family's downfall. I was 12 when I first heard my mother say it. Jordan is the black sheep. If anything destroys this family, it'll be him. Her voice cut sharper than any knife, but what shattered me was the look on my father's face: agreement. Growing up in our polished suburban neighborhood in Montclair, New Jersey, my siblings glowed like diamonds. Marcus, the golden firstborn; Ariana, the beauty queen; Caleb, the prodigy; and me, Jordan, the mistake. Every achievement I made was dismissed as luck. Every failure was magnified, replayed, etched into my skin like scars. But the breaking point came at my father's 50th birthday. He stood in front of our relatives and toasted, "To the ones who make us proud, and to the one who keeps giving us trouble." Everyone laughed. Everyone, except me. That night, I heard Ariana whisper to Caleb, "He won't be anything. Daddy says Jordan is destined to fail." I wept quietly, not because of their words, but because something inside me died that night. And something darker woke up. Twist: my father secretly removed my name from his estate documents that night, before I even turned 18. 2 weeks later, snooping through my father's study, something I was always accused of anyway, I found the folder. Hale Estate. Updated beneficiaries. My name was missing. They erased me like I was never born. The document shook in my hands as I stared at signatures that looked like execution orders. And clipped to the last page was a note in my mother's handwriting. "Finally. Now he can't ruin us." I went numb. Years of emotional wounds suddenly bled into a clarity I had never felt before. My worth was never theirs to define. My destiny wasn't tied to their validation. I left the folder exactly where I found it. Smiled. Closed the door quietly. Something shifted that day. Not revenge. Not yet. Just awareness. The kind that comes before a storm. Twist. I overheard Marcus telling my father that locking me out was necessary because my future looked like poverty. At 18, I packed a single duffel bag and took the cheapest bus to Boston. No money, no support, no family. I worked night shifts at a grocery store while studying cybersecurity at a community college. I barely slept, barely ate, but I was free. One night, my manager, Mr. Carter, an older man with tired eyes, looked at me and said, "You don't talk much, but your silence feels focused." I cracked a rare smile. Focus was all I had. 4 years later, I graduated top of my class, earning a spot in a prestigious tech accelerator program in San Francisco. My siblings didn't call. My parents didn't write. To them, Jordan Hale didn't exist. Good. Ghosts can walk anywhere unnoticed. Twist. That same year, Hale Industries, our family company, shifted its entire operations online, setting the stage for my future access. San Francisco felt like rebirth. I developed a data protection software, Haze Shield, that became an underground sensation among startups. My specialty? Finding weaknesses in powerful systems, breaking what others swore was unbreakable. People feared digital ghosts. They never suspected the real ghosts were the living ones, like me. Haze Shield went viral. Investors threw money my way. I built a team, an empire, quietly. Still, I watched Hale Industries from a distance. Their financial reports, board decisions, emails. And then I saw it. Marcus had been embezzling money. Ariana was falsifying PR metrics. Caleb was laundering funds through shell companies. Our perfect family was rotten from the inside. I didn't touch a thing. Not yet. Just watched. Like a hunter learning the movements of prey. Twist. My mother wrote an internal memo stating that Jordan must never be allowed near family business affairs. He is a liability. The email arrived at 6:12 p.m. Subject: Family reunion, important. My first invitation in 12 years. Location: Manhattan, 5th Avenue. A luxury penthouse restaurant. Dress code: formal. Purpose: a special family announcement. My heart didn't skip. It darkened. They wanted something. And wolves don't summon the black sheep unless they smell sacrifice. I arrived dressed in a simple black suit, my armor. Marcus hugged me like a politician. Ariana smiled like an actress. Caleb nodded like a stranger. My mother avoided my eyes. My father didn't look at me at all. Dinner was served. Wine was poured. Then Marcus cleared his throat and revealed the real reason. We need your software expertise. The company is facing cyber threats. My father added coldly. We're giving you a chance to be useful. Useful? As if I were a tool. Not blood. Not family. I smiled. Tell me everything. And they did. Every vulnerability. Every scandal. Every crime hidden in their servers. They handed me the knife. Twist. They planned to use my work to cover Marcus's embezzlement, without paying me or crediting me. 3 days after the reunion, Marcus emailed me a contract. A contract that confirmed everything I suspected. No payment. No ownership. No acknowledgement. Instead, it stated, you agree that any intellectual property you produce becomes the asset of Hale Industries. In other words, I would be their slave in a suit. I read the contract in a quiet cafe overlooking Central Park, my mind steady. Ariana texted me. Sign it, Jordan. This is your chance to redeem your reputation. Redeem. The word tasted like acid. Then Caleb called, pretending to care. You always wanted to belong, he said. This is how you get back in. I let him talk. Let him pour manipulation into my ear like honey hiding poison. When the call ended, I didn't scream. Didn't break. Didn't rage. I simply whispered. They still think I'm weak. But weakness was never my curse. Love was. The contract was a test. A trap. And they were so confident I'd crawl back that they didn't bother hiding their intentions. That arrogance would be their undoing. Twist. I signed the contract, but with a digital modification embedded inside, one they would never see coming. I returned to San Francisco under the guise of beginning work for Hale Industries. My team believed I was taking a consulting gig. They never questioned my motives. Loyalty can be blind in a way family never was. I studied Hale Industries systems for weeks. Their networks were outdated. Their firewalls, sloppy. Their encryption, laughable. They were a billion-dollar empire built on toothpicks. Using the contract they forced on me, I installed a system update, one they approved without reading a single line. Inside that update was my masterpiece, the Trojan keepsake. Not malware, not destruction, a mirror, a perfect digital reflection of every criminal act they tried to bury, every hidden account, every fraudulent audit, every bribe, every embezzled dollar. The Trojan didn't break anything. It only watched, recorded, organized, and saved everything in an encrypted vault only I could access. I didn't touch a single file, didn't fabricate a single accusation. I simply collected truth, because truth is the most effective weapon, sharp enough to cut, clean enough to expose, and legal enough to destroy. Twist. While scanning the archives, I discovered something worse. Marcus wasn't the only thief. My father had been laundering money through children's charities, using my name. I drove back to New Jersey quietly, parking in front of the old Hale mansion. 12 years had passed, yet it still felt like the house exhaled arrogance. I stood across the street, watching from the shadows like a memory no one invited. Inside, children's toys were stacked in boxes near the garage. The sight twisted something in my chest. My father had laundered money through a foundation supposedly supporting abused children, and signed the paperwork using my digital identity. My name, my reputation, my future. He sacrificed me for his greed long before he erased me from his will. That night, I sat in my rental car trembling, not in fear, but in fury so controlled it felt surgical. They called me the black sheep, but they were the wolves feeding on innocence. When I returned to my hotel, I opened the encrypted vault containing their secrets. Everything was there. And now, my name was tied to a crime that would send an innocent man to prison unless the truth came out. I had two choices: clear my name quietly, or expose all of them loudly. I closed my laptop. The choice had already been made the moment they called me the black sheep. Twist. Ariana made a large, anonymous donation to the same charity, money traced to a political bribe. I flew to Washington, D.C., blending into the sea of professionals walking around Capitol Hill. There, I met with an investigative attorney, a woman named Elena Brooks, an expert in corporate crimes and political fraud. I didn't reveal everything, just enough. She reviewed the documents and asked quietly, "Why hasn't anyone exposed this yet?" I smiled. "Their family. Elena looked at me with an understanding only someone who had lived betrayal could give. What do you want, Jordan? I answered with a calmness I didn't know I possessed. I want justice, not vengeance. Justice. Elena nodded. Justice requires patience and precision. Her words became my doctrine. We spent hours constructing a legal timeline, preparing evidence, building a case that would collapse Hale Industries from the inside, without breaking a single law. When I left her office that evening, the sky was a stormy gray. Fitting, because storms don't announce themselves. They gather quietly until the first strike. Twist. Elena discovered a hidden offshore account linked to Ariana, one used to finance illegal political campaigns. The penalty? Federal prison. I arranged to meet my mother in a quiet corner of Rittenhouse Square in Philadelphia. She thought I wanted reconciliation. I let her believe that. She arrived dressed expensively, her perfume heavy and familiar. She hugged me stiffly, as if embracing a stranger. Jordan, darling, she said, soft and false. It's good you're finally stepping up for the family. For the family. Meaning, for our protection. I stared at her. Mom, did you know Dad laundered money using my name? Her eyes flickered. Just for a second. But enough. She exhaled and said, You were always the easiest to sacrifice. You didn't have a future anyway. The sentence landed like a knife. Not because it hurt, but because she admitted it without blinking. My mother never hated me. She underestimated me. And underestimation is the deadliest gift an enemy can give. I stood, heart colder than the Philadelphia air. Thank you, I said. For what? She asked. For confessing. She froze. And for the first time in my life, my mother looked afraid of me. Twist. She unknowingly confessed while my phone recorded the entire conversation. Audio verified, timestamped, legally admissible. 2 weeks after my mother's confession, an email arrived from Hale Industries' legal department. Subject: Finalization of updated beneficiary structure. I opened the attached documents, expecting the same old erasure. But it was worse. Not only had they removed me from the will completely, they redistributed my former share among my siblings. Ariana got my equity portion. Marcus received my trust fund. Caleb inherited my life insurance benefits. My life had been divided like leftovers. Attached at the bottom was a handwritten note from my father. Removing you prevents future complications. You were never aligned with the family's values. Values. Fraud. Lies. Embezzlement. Those values. I sat alone in my apartment, staring at the note until it blurred. Not from tears. From fury sharpened to precision. I thought about all the birthdays they skipped. The milestones they ignored. The silence they wrapped around me like chains. But this document. This was their final burial attempt. What they didn't realize was this. You cannot bury what has already risen. I opened the encrypted vault of evidence and added the inheritance documents to the folder titled Justice. Twist. That night, I received an anonymous message. Your siblings are planning something. Be careful. Marcus invited me to dinner at a private club in Soho. The kind of place where politicians whispered deals and scandals were served alongside wine. My instincts screamed trap, but I went anyway. Not because I trusted them, but because snakes only reveal themselves when they think you're cornered. The moment I entered, I noticed the shift. No smiles this time. No fake warmth. Just cold calculation. We sat. Marcus leaned forward. Jordan, we need to talk about the vulnerabilities you detected. You haven't given us full access. Ariana added. You signed a contract. We need what you owe us. Oh, as if I were born to serve them. I took a sip of water, calm. I'll release everything once the system is stable. They exchanged a glance. Caleb placed a file on the table. Inside was a proposal to hire another cybersecurity expert. Someone who could bypass my work. Lock me out of the very system I designed. And then Marcus said it. You're replaceable. Don't force us to treat you like the outsider you insist on being. The threat hung between us. I smiled slowly. Because they didn't know. The Trojan keepsake recognized unauthorized access attempts. If they hired anyone else, every hidden crime would automatically compile into a public report. And they had just triggered it. Twist. The system notified me that an unauthorized hack attempt had begun by someone hired by my father. Back in San Francisco, I watched as Hale Industries' servers sparked with frantic activity. I sat in my penthouse office, screens glowing like constellations. Lines of code shifted, updated, responded in real time. The hacker they hired was good, but my system was better. Every bypass attempt triggered another shadow backup. Every shadow backup added more evidence to the folder I was preparing for federal authorities. It was a countdown, not created by me, created by them. My phone buzzed. Elena, the attorney. Jordan, the data is damning. Your family won't walk away from this. Prepare for pushback. Pushback. The Hales didn't push back. They attacked. At midnight, an unknown vehicle parked across from my building. A man stepped out. Lean. Unfamiliar. A messenger. Or a threat. He lingered for 30 minutes before leaving. No note. No message. Just a warning. They were watching me now. But fear wasn't a language I spoke anymore. I sat at my desk and whispered to the empty room. You wanted a war. Fine. But don't pray for mercy you never gave. Twist. The hacker accidentally uncovered something buried deep. A hidden folder labeled Project Black Sheep. It was about me. The moment I opened the folder, my breath caught. Project Black Sheep. A contingency plan in case Jordan becomes a liability. Inside were files, photos, psychological evaluations fabricated to depict me as unstable, dangerous, mentally unwell. They had prepared a full character assassination. Therapists' signatures, fake. Police reports, fabricated. Emails between my siblings discussing keeping Jordan under control. And worst of all, a prepared statement. Jordan Hale has always struggled with emotional and behavioral issues. We've tried for years to support him, but he is not well. My family didn't just abandon me. They built a future alibi to destroy me. My hands trembled, but not with shock. With wrath. Because this wasn't betrayal anymore. It was premeditated destruction. I forwarded the entire folder to Elena. She called immediately. Jordan, this is catastrophic for them. This isn't just fraud. This is conspiracy. They plan to ruin you. I stared out my hotel window, overlooking Boston Harbor. Calm waters hiding violent storms underneath. My voice was steady. They wanted a black sheep. Now they'll see the wolf they created. Twist. At the bottom was a final document. A plan to leak false accusations about me to federal authorities. Dated for next week. I flew to Washington, D.C. in silence. No music. No distractions. Just the quiet before impact. Elena arranged a private meeting with federal investigators. I entered the room with a single encrypted drive. The vault containing everything. The agents listened as Elena explained. Tax fraud, racketeering, political bribery, money laundering, identity theft, charity exploitation, conspiracy against a family member. Their expressions shifted from skepticism to shock to anger. Then I played my mother's recorded confession. The room went still. One agent finally spoke. Mr. Hale, this is enough to bring down your entire family. I nodded. I know. But why now, he asked. I lifted my eyes. Because they are preparing to accuse me of crimes I didn't commit. This isn't revenge. This is survival. They exchanged glances. One agent slid a document across the table. Legally, you have two options. Press charges immediately, or allow us to investigate quietly and strike when the evidence is complete. I chose the latter. Because justice isn't rushed. Justice is timed. Twist. As I walked out of the building, I received a message from an unknown number. Jordan, they know what you're doing. 2 days after the anonymous warning, the storm hit. A rumor exploded online. Forums, blogs, financial gossip websites. All claiming that I stole funds from Hale Industries. Me. The irony almost made me laugh. Marcus released a statement. We are deeply saddened by Jordan's actions, but we are cooperating fully with authorities. Ariana posted a tearful video. Fake tears. Real manipulation. Caleb issued a cold announcement. We've always supported Jordan, despite his past difficulties, but theft is unacceptable. They executed Project Black Sheep exactly as documented. They tried to destroy my credibility before I could destroy their empire. But they didn't know I was already 10 steps ahead. Within an hour, Elena sent a message. These fabricated claims just activated federal scrutiny. They don't know it yet, but they just handed us probable cause. I sat in my rental car outside the Hale mansion, watching the lights flicker in the windows. They were scrambling, panicking, desperate. Good. Pressure reveals truth. And the truth was about to erupt. As I prepared to leave, a shadow approached my car. It was the same man from San Francisco. He slid a note under my windshield and disappeared. I unfolded it slowly. Leave your family alone, or we make you disappear. Twist. A fingerprint on the note matched someone in my father's private security team. I relocated to a penthouse safe house in Lower Manhattan, secured by federal authorities. From there, I watched the world react as leaked whispers of Hale Industries' corruption began to surface. Not from me. Not yet. Hackers. Whistleblowers. Anonymous investigative journalists. Someone inside the company was leaking information. The perfect chaos. At 2:13 a.m., I received an encrypted message. You don't know me, but I work for your father. He's planning to frame you for everything. This family will never let you walk away alive. But I won't be part of covering their crimes anymore. Attached were screenshots. Emails from my siblings discussing ways to falsify psychiatric reports. Threads planning to accuse me of attempted sabotage. Even a draft statement blaming me for the company's failing stock. They were preparing to burn me alive. But they didn't realize that every lie they produced became another nail in their own coffin. By sunrise, the stock price had plummeted. Board members demanded emergency meetings. Media reporters camped outside their headquarters. The wolves had started turning on each other. Twist. The anonymous insider revealed something else. My father had a secret meeting scheduled with a politician connected to the illegal donations. A meeting that could destroy me. Or him. The secret meeting was set at Baltimore Harbor, late evening, under the guise of a business charity event. I arrived early, blending with the crowd, a hood pulled low. From a distance, I watched my father greet Senator Whitmore, a man whose career depended on clean finances and silent scandals. They spoke quietly near the water. I inched closer, staying in the shadows. Then I heard it. My father saying, "Jordan is unstable. We'll blame everything on him. Once he's arrested, the investigations will stop." Whitmore nodded. If he's discredited, so are the files he claims to have. Discredited. Eliminated. Erased. I recorded every word. My chest tightened, not from fear, but from the final severing of the thread that once connected me to family. As I backed away, a hand grabbed my shoulder. Security. 2 men. Large. Silent. My pulse stayed steady. I expected this. Before they could drag me, a voice shouted. Federal agents. Step away. Flashing lights. Badges. Chaos. The men retreated. My father froze. He didn't know I had backup. He didn't know his words had been captured. He didn't know this was no longer a family issue. It was federal. Twist. An agent whispered to me. Jordan, the senator isn't the biggest problem. Your father is hiding another secret. One deeper. Federal agents secured a warrant to search Hale Industries' headquarters. They allowed me to observe, quietly, from a controlled distance. The building felt different now. No longer intimidating. Just hollow. Inside, chaos reigned. Employees panicked. Executives whispered. Lawyers shouted. Security guards blocked hallways. And then the agents found it. A hidden server room. Not listed in any floor plan. Accessible only via biometric clearance from my father and Marcus. Inside were financial records going back 20 years. Shell companies, foreign accounts, illegal trades, forged documents, political bribes. Scandals that made everything else look like child's play. At the center was a folder labeled Security Risk, JH. My initials. Inside were surveillance photos of me for years. Walking to class in Boston. Working night shifts. Entering my San Francisco office. Sitting alone at a bus stop. They had watched me. Tracked me. Studied me like prey. I felt my stomach twist, but I didn't look away. This was who they were. The lead agent placed a hand on my shoulder. Jordan, this is no longer about fraud. This is a criminal empire. And you were their scapegoat. I nodded slowly. I know. Twist. At the bottom of the server files was a message written by my father. If Jordan becomes a threat, activate Plan Omega. The plan had only one line. Remove him. By the time we returned to D.C., the story had exploded across national media. Hale Industries under federal investigation. Political bribery scheme uncovered. Children's charity used for money laundering. Senator linked to questionable donations. Reporters swarmed like hornets. Cameras flashed. News vans lined the streets. The wolves were cornered. Marcus was the first to break. Seen leaving the building with his lawyer, face pale and tight. Ariana posted a desperate video blaming a rogue employee. Caleb shut down his social media and locked himself indoors. My parents released a cold statement. We are cooperating with the investigation and have nothing to hide. But the evidence said otherwise, and the agents were already preparing arrest warrants. I sat in a secure office, surrounded by the people who believed me. For the first time in my life, I wasn't alone. Elena entered with a folder. Jordan, this is the final stage. We're moving toward prosecution. Justice, not revenge. Justice. I breathed deeply. The storm I had waited years to unleash was finally here. Twist. Elena added softly. There's one more thing. Your father is trying to cut a deal, and he's willing to sacrifice Marcus, Ariana, and Caleb to save himself. The boardroom at the Boston estate was silent when I walked in. My siblings, Nathan, Claire, and Rebecca, sat stiffly, their eyes darting like trapped animals. They expected me to come quietly, to sign away the last pieces of the estate father had left behind. But I didn't sit. I stood at the head of the table, the position they had mocked me for dreaming of. I projected the document on the screen behind me. Their forged signatures, their hidden offshore accounts, their emails instructing the lawyer to rewrite father's will. Claire gasped first. Rebecca's face drained of color. Nathan stood up so fast his chair toppled. You hacked us? He stammered. I smiled. No, I simply followed the trail you left while trying to bury me. I watched their faces crumble as the truth settled like ash over the room. For the first time since childhood, I saw fear in their eyes, and it wasn't because of anything I had done wrong, but because of everything they had done to me. The lawyer they trusted walked in next. He didn't take their side. He handed me the original untouched will, and that's when the shock broke them completely. The Massachusetts Grand Hall was packed with reporters, investors, and industry leaders. They expected the Coles siblings to unveil the next big project in real estate expansion. They expected the Golden Children. They didn't expect me. As I walked onto the stage, whispers rippled through the hall. Nathan's jaw clenched. Claire and Rebecca stood stiffly behind me, cornered by their own actions. I tapped the microphone. Thank you for coming. Today, I'm here to reveal the truth. A murmur spread. I played the recordings. Nathan threatening the lawyer, Claire demanding that my inheritance be stripped, Rebecca suggesting that I be cut out completely, just like father should have done years ago. Gasps filled the room. My voice didn't shake. For years, they called me the black sheep. They isolated me, mocked me, and painted me as a failure. They thought they could rewrite history, but today, truth rewrites them. Then I presented the original will on the massive screen. My name was listed as the rightful heir to 60% of the family corporation. I looked back at them. None could speak, because for the first time, the world saw who the true villains were. The fallout was immediate. Investors pulled out. The media devoured the scandal. Their reputations, once polished and envied, crumbled in a single afternoon. Nathan tried to deny everything, but every email, every signature, every instruction traced back to him. Claire broke down on a live broadcast, claiming she was manipulated. Rebecca fired her lawyer, then hired a new one, then discovered the new one refused to work with her. Their empire had been built on lies, so it fell with truth. Meanwhile, the board called an emergency meeting. They voted unanimously to remove all three of them from their positions, and then they asked me to step in. When I stood in Father's old office, overlooking the Charles River, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Not victory, but peace. My revenge wasn't loud. It wasn't petty. It was the simple restoration of truth. The downfall they wrote for me became the downfall they walked into themselves. With the company under my leadership, I initiated an internal audit. Not to destroy them. No, that would be too easy. But to expose the full extent of their mismanagement. Millions unaccounted for. Deals signed out of greed. Properties purchased at inflated prices to impress friends. Lies layered on lies. When the report came out, it destroyed any chance of recovery for them. The IRS came next. The state attorney's office after. Their lawyers couldn't save them. And through it all, I never raised my voice. Never threatened. Never gloated. Because the truth was already loud enough. The city called me the unexpected heiress. Reporters called me the rise of the black sheep. But I knew the real story. They had written their downfall. I just brought the script to the stage. The morning of the final hearing, I walked into court wearing the same necklace my mother gave me before she died, the necklace my siblings once mocked as cheap. Today it was strength. The judge read the final ruling. The will they forged was invalid. The inheritance they stole was returned. Their positions were permanently revoked. They were liable for damages and fraud. Then came the part that pulled the ground from beneath them. I was granted full controlling interest over the company. Nathan collapsed into his chair. Claire burst into tears. Rebecca stared straight ahead, unable to process her new reality. When the hearing ended, they approached me. For the first time in decades, they weren't arrogant. They weren't superior. They were broken. Nathan whispered, "Was this your plan all along?" I looked at them. My siblings, my bullies, the architects of my suffering. "No," I said softly. "This was your plan. I just refused to die in it." I walked away, not in triumph, but in freedom. Outside, the cold Boston wind brushed against my face. For the first time since childhood, I felt light, whole, unburdened. They called me the black sheep. But in the end, I became the shepherd of their truth. And they became the victims of their own lies. Poetic justice served, not by violence, not by vengeance, but by truth. And truth is the most beautiful revenge of all. Thank you for listening to my story. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share my videos. Thank you.